the next item that we have on our agenda is a spotlight on a career. So we're going to have one of our dear sisters share what she does on a day-to-day basis, where she started her career, what she does now, key things she's learned from it. And towards the end, you will all have the opportunity to ask her a question. So, wow, there's a lot of you sitting down. Let's continue giving them a round of applause. So without further ado, I'm going to invite our dear Sister Peju. Sister Peju started off, I'll try and give some background. So she started her career, I believe, at JRJ Group, which is a private equity firm, investment firm. And then she's now at Invesco, which is one of the largest asset managers in the world, which manages close to 100 billion worth of individual and institutional shareholders' money. So we'll leave it over to Sister Peju. Let's give her a round of applause.
Good evening, everyone. I prepared a presentation. I'm just hoping it can get on. Ah, fantastic. Thank you. All right, so before I kick off, I'll just develop further on the background that Deacon Councillor Jason gave. My career actually started before JRJ. So while I was in university, I was privileged to be offered internship at an investment bank, a top-tier investment bank. And I did some work experience there within equities research. So that was great experience, but the hours were quite demanding. You had to be at your desk at 6 a.m. in the morning. And I think the earliest I left was 7:30 p.m. So they were quite demanding hours, but that's where I got my investment banking experience. When I graduated, I moved into strategic consulting. And then from there, I moved to JRJ Group, which is private equity. And now, as he correctly said, I am at Invesco, who are a large global asset manager. So my plan is to give you an exposure to a day in the life of Sister Peju. So what I do on a regular basis. So I work in asset management. And a lot of people actually don't understand what asset management is. Because it's not a term that's thrown around as much. If we could go to the next slide. In essence, this question will highlight what I do. If you had £1 billion, what would you do with it? Shout out answers, anyone. What would you do if you had £1 billion? Invest, buy a house. Anyone else? No one wants to go shopping? No one wants to go on holiday? Buy a new car? Buy what? Did someone say food? Jesus City, yes. Finance Jesus City. Yes. We'll buy church, yeah, for the church. Amen. So we have wealth of ideas flowing here. Fantastic. So basically, the three options I put: spending spree. It's like people that win the lottery, you're just going to spend it all at once. Or invest, or lock it away in a savings and not want to do anything because you want to stay a billionaire for the rest of your life or something like that. So in essence, my job is to answer that question. If you had £1 billion, my job now is to invest it for you so that one day it becomes 5 billion, if that makes sense. So if we can move to the next slide, please. Right. So I decided to get some facts about the financial industry at large because I work within the financial industry, and that's where I've majored my entire career so far. You wouldn't believe that the financial industry so far in the EU supports 11 million jobs. So financial services by far is the largest sector in the UK and in the EU. And another one I'll pick out is 99% of the economy of the EU is actually funded by SMEs. So SMEs are small and medium enterprises. So it's not necessarily the large conglomerates or multinational organizations. It's actually the small to medium-sized businesses that fuel even more the financial industry. Now, I put a link there just to show an interesting graph. I don't know if it's going to work. It should link to a website. And what I was trying to demonstrate to you is this graph is fantastic because it shows you the journey of various countries, how they've grown from like 1960 to today. And you can literally see the countries all on a map as represented like bubbles and how they're moving. And you see China kind of like staggering at the beginning. And then it gets to like 2010 and China just shoots up. Amazing. And it's a good guide that helps like asset managers to see what economies are in the mix now. What's the buzz? Which economies should we be looking into? Which markets should we be tapping into? Where is the future returns coming from? Where are the future performances that we're looking for to give our investors? And that's what's grown over today, that the global finance industry is actually worth $124 trillion. And lastly, the UK is the world's second largest financial center. Who can guess what number one is? Yeah, the US, exactly. So if we can move to the next slide, please. Brilliant. So I'll give you the scenario. I put a YouTube link there. What I will do, because of time, anyone that's interested in watching the videos and stuff, let me know and I'll send you the presentation so you can click on the link yourself and see. So it's a good video from a company called Schroders. They're also an asset manager, talking about what asset management is, explaining it in a nutshell. So I'll give a scenario that really paints the picture of what I do every day. Mr. Jacobs works for Marks and Spencer's. He's a cashier in the food hall department, right? And by law, everybody has a pension. And you see on your pay slips when you get paid that a percentage, I think the minimum now is 1 or 2% from employees, goes towards your pension. So your company is collecting all this money that you're contributing, not just to your pension, but all the employees globally for that company. And all that money becomes what we refer to as a pool, P-O-O-L, a pool of funds that we can now do stuff with. So that could be 500 million or whatever the value is. So at M&S, they now go to the market to look for asset managers that can help them to invest the money because they don't have the expertise required to know where to invest the money, how much to invest in order to grow the size and the value of the portfolio. So that's why when you're giving to your pension every time, they should be sending you a report to let you know what it's worth because there are people behind the scenes investing your money, making sure it makes returns for you. So they select their asset managers that will go out and now say, we can manage your money for you, we'll tell you where to invest, we'll select the best industries for you. And then it comes to what I said me, because what I do every day. So I talk to a lot of like wealth managers, private wealth managers, family office managers, and I'm telling them, this is the fund I represent, this is what we're doing with it, this is why you should give us your money so we can invest it and make more money for you. And obviously, we want their business because we charge fees. So the more money we have, the more fees we charge, the more money we make. Does that make sense to everyone? So the key things I have to do daily is looking for key assets in key locations that I feel we can invest in, or just by nature of the way the economy is going, is going to appreciate in value. So for example, right now, because I look at real estate specifically, the logistics sector, so ASOS that we all shop online, they have huge warehouses around Europe. And because of the increase in sales that we were seeing on online shopping, we targeted logistics centers around Europe to make sure that we purchase them because they're going to grow in value. If they also are making more money, we can charge more money on their rent, and so on and so forth. So if you move to the next slide. Great. So I wanted to give you some facts more specifically to me daily. So it's real estate. Like I said, we cover all real estate, and the value of the fund now is almost 5 billion euros. And that's what we have to be accountable for every single day, to make sure that the money that's coming in from our investors is going to appreciate rather than depreciate, because we don't want to lose their money. And my slide is gone. Okay, I'll continue talking. So it's real estate, it's pan-European. So I don't just cover the UK, I cover every country in Europe, looking at the fundamentals of the economics, of the macroeconomy, what the economy is doing in that space. Then I drill down more to the real estate sector in that space, what's going on, what are the government policies in that country that could impact real estate that I may like, I may not like, what is the employment rates there, what is the inflation rate there, what is the interest rate. So I have to really get into the details of understanding that economy, how it works. Sub to that, how that particular real estate sector works there as well. And we're fortunate that we have teams on the ground in the various locations, so we don't just read reports that say, this economy is gonna blow up in 10 years and be fantastic. We have people on the ground that can say, no, actually, a lot of tenants are going into foreclosure and they're not able to keep up with their rent. So we know that, okay, what we're reading in broker reports is not the truth. We've got people on the ground that are telling us what's actually going on. It's what they call a core plus strategy. So that means we don't go too far on the risk bracket. There are various strategies, some called value add, some called opportunistic. Opportunistic means I find a piece of land in the middle of Czech Republic, and I feel that because of the fundamentals that the Czech Republic is offering, it's gonna blow up. Let's buy that land. Let's find contractors, negotiate forward contracts, and let's build. Fantastic, because you're gonna make a lot of money because you can buy land much cheaper. And by the time you fully build, the economy is doing well, tenants come in there, the returns you've made from what you paid for the land is enormous, but the risks are enormous. So because the kind of clients we deal with are pension funds, like I said, Mr. Jacobs that works in M&S, we also deal with mutual funds, we deal with insurance companies, a lot of them in Japan, and public pensions. A lot of the UK pensions invest with us as well. So the appetite for risk is not as large, as I'm sure you can imagine. You wouldn't be too happy knowing that your pension has been invested somewhere that it could just wipe off. So we have to be very conservative with the risk that we take to make sure that the strategy is something that we are pretty much guaranteed is gonna make a return for the investor. So far, we have 44 closed deals. So we own 44 assets around the UK. It's not private, so I can disclose one of the assets we own, for example. Who shops at Mango? Right? So we own one of their headquarters, pan-European. We also own who shops at ASOS. We own their warehouses as well. So those are some of the assets that we have to take care of daily. And sometimes it means investing in the asset to make sure we can make more money from it. One thing that I think is important with this role that I learned is you need to make sure you're current with affairs that are going on. For example, because e-commerce is growing so much, high street retail is suffering. I think we've seen that all on the news. A lot less people are shopping in the shops. So where there's exposure to high street retail in the portfolio, that is having some drag on the performance of the portfolio. So that's why it's important to keep up with what's going on and what's likely to happen. You need to be able to make forecasts in order to validate your decision. I've covered all the sectors we cover. And lastly, so far, since the fund launched 10 years ago, we have been able to achieve a 7% return. So if you gave us £100, then let's say it's made £107 now, which in retrospect doesn't sound a lot, but we deal with people that give us £800 million, so you can imagine, or euros, sorry, so you can imagine the scale of that. So on the next slide, please. So my investment goals are the two big circles. I said capital growth, income growth. Those are the two components that you look at in real estate. Capital growth refers to the actual value, the underlying asset, the building in itself. The value of that, actually, the building going up. Just like recently in the UK, house prices were going up. You didn't have to do anything, house prices were just rising. That's called capital growth. The value of the asset is appreciating because the economy is flourishing, or there's more demand for that type of asset in the economy. So we don't have to do much work, we just ride on that wave. The second one is income growth, which we have to work for. So that involves what I've put CapEx, so that's capital expenditure. That means really investing in the asset. It could be completely rewiring some of the assets. We own some huge shopping centers around the UK, as well as in the rest of Europe. And we've recently done a huge CapEx program, which was installing a cinema, changing the parking, bringing new tenants, like the shops that people like to shop at, into the mall. And that's all CapEx. You're spending money to make sure that the asset is still generating returns and can produce returns for you in the future. I think next slide is the final one, yeah. So food for thought. The question I hear a lot from people is, when do I start investing? To me, my old boss at JRJ Group, because he was the CEO of Lehman Brothers for Europe and Asia before it went bust. And one thing he said to me that I always remembered, he said, invest when you know you can afford that loss and it means nothing to you. I.e., if I had £100 that I know, bar that £100, I can survive. I can do everything I need to do and I'm okay. Invest that £100. And there's no right time in terms of age. There's no right time in terms of stage of life. It's all about your financial situation at that point in time. Where should I invest? Okay, so I would strongly recommend you speak to professionals where to invest. A lot of people do embark on investing themselves, which is possible, but there are brokers out there that's their job. They'll do it for you. They'll tell you where you should invest, where they think is what's happening right now, where's the market, where's the buzz, or you pay them to do it for you. They'll charge a small fee and they'll invest your money for you and give you updates as to how much you've made or lost. And then lastly, how much should I invest? I think I covered that actually at the beginning. It again goes back to that £100. You should invest the amount that you can afford to lose, if that makes sense. So that's what I have to do daily. It involves writing reports, forecasting, building models. It involves talking to the investors that we invest with, being accountable to them on a daily basis. So the job has its challenges, especially when you're in a situation that the fund is losing some money because of some bad decisions in the past. So that gets challenging. Also, we have over 100 investors. So you can imagine over 100 people trying to email me every day. It's tiring. But the key things it's helped me to grow, learn time management, and I see that like flourishing in my everyday. The one thing I would say to end to everyone who's interested in this industry, the platform that helped me get into the finance world is a group called SEO. I wanted to put a slide on that, but I forgot. And they're sponsors of ethnic minorities. They're a fantastic group. They're the ones that helped me land my internship at UBS. They sponsor all ethnic minorities that want to go into the financial, legal, professional services, even into technology. So if you want details about them, definitely come and see me. I still have some contacts there. They prep you, they send you on courses, they do workshops, and they really build you up for a career in the city. So if you're interested, come and let me know. And that's a day in the life of Peju. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you, Sister Peju, for sharing that with us. Be sure to contact her if you want any of the links that weren't working on the slideshow. And also, if you want to know more about the company that helps Black and minority people with getting jobs and stuff.